Good morning, everybody. I can see that people are joining us, but it's sort of slowed down a bit now. So people, I'm sure, will join us as we sort of get going. Good morning on this beautiful morning for our sustainability webinar. I just want to try and give a definition of net zero. Few people now deny that we are facing a climate emergency. We're seeing extreme weather. Here in the UK, we had the driest spring in over a century. And this week we have got extreme weather warnings. And there was talk on the radio this morning about possibly in, I'm not sure how many years' time, but we could be regularly sort of seeing upper 30s temperatures. On the other side of the world, New South Wales in Australia has just had over 4 months of rain. That's over 400 millimetres in just 2 days. For every 1 degree centigrade rise in global temperature, the water vapour held in the atmosphere can increase by 7%. The Earth is 1.47 degrees centigrade warmer than it was in pre-industrial times. So there's about 10% more moisture in the atmosphere. The scientific evidence is pretty clear. Emissions of greenhouse gases resulting from human activity are causing our climate to change. Carbon dioxide is emitted when fossil fuels are burned to meet our demand for energy. Although it isn't only greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide is the most significant. As such, the term carbon emissions is often used to talk about all greenhouse gas emissions. To address the problem in June 2019, the UK became the first major economy to pass legislation that commits the country to net zero emissions by 2050. In other words, the target is to reduce net greenhouse gas emissions by 100% relative to 1990 levels by the middle of this century. So that's me trying to explain it. But this morning we've got some experts who are far better qualified than I. So first up is going to be Mohammed Kantar, and he's going to give a few more definitions, setting the scene and giving an intro to what his company is doing to try to help us. Just to let everybody know, this webinar is being recorded and will be on our YouTube channel probably later this afternoon. If anybody has any questions, please do put them into the chat box. Thank you very much. Mo, over to you.
Good morning, Sally. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you also for the introduction, the great introduction. I think you've set the scene and in a very nice way, and I think what you described could be just the beginning, and we must definitely act urgently towards that. So, but anyway, let me start. A big thank you, really, to you and to the West London Chamber of Commerce for hosting us and for also providing us this platform to talk about this particular topic, very important topic today. We are an SME ourselves, so it comes perfectly aligned with what we do. My name is Mohammed Kantar. I'm the co-founder and the managing director of Kantar Advisory Partners, or we call ourselves CAP. And I'm here today not really to talk only about the strategies for SMEs themselves to become sustainable, but more about really how SMEs and startups aren't just reacting to the sustainability and to the net zero transition, but they're actually driving it. And this is very important, I think, a topic to raise awareness about and to talk about more and more. Because if we're really serious about hitting net zero and transforming our economy, we do have to recognize their role, not just as small players, but also as very essential parts of the whole value chain that will unlock and is unlocking impact at scale. At CAP, we work mostly with startups that are at the frontier of climate solutions, of climate technologies. We help them become investor ready, unlock strategic partnerships, adopt sustainable business model, secure funding, and most importantly, move from the bold ideas that they have to real world implementation. And we work across different sectors, from hydrogen to biofuels, circularity, water and waste, all really aimed at helping us get to net zero and a sustainable way of living. But again and again, we really see them get stuck, not because the tech doesn't work or their solution doesn't work, but because the system around them in general doesn't move fast enough. They get stuck waiting for next grant, waiting for the next investor, for the first pilot project, or trying to convince someone that their tech or their solution is real. And all that is happening while time is ticking, again, to your point, Sally. And we must recognize something that is very, very important. Startups or SMEs like us, they are the ones that are taking the first and often the biggest risk on behalf of us all. They build early, before the market is ready. They're betting on a future regulations, future funding or possible funding, demand from the market. And they're doing it with very limited resources, because the problems they're solving, they cannot wait. But no matter how strong the solution is, they cannot scale it alone. And to move faster, we need real collaboration. And that often starts with pilots. When larger organizations like airports, universities, local authorities, industry leaders open the door to pilot new technologies, new solutions, that's when things shift and start happening. Because like when piloting isn't just a test, it's a signal. And I will tell you why I'm talking about piloting and really focusing on that at the moment. Because the solutions because that's a signal, really, a signal that really the solutions that matters. This is a solution that matters. We're backing it. We're moving forward with it. And that's where, like when SMEs, corporates, public bodies play a critical role by coming together as partners in scaling innovation for a more sustainable future. And that's how sustainability takes root at a larger scale. And that's how we bring breakthrough solutions to the market faster. We've been very fortunate, I think, that with the West London Chamber of Commerce, really, and I want to point that out, because you've supported us on this mission early on by introducing us to some incredible local decarbonization efforts, from schools to universities to airports and others, all looking to become more sustainable and open to piloting new innovation. And that's, I think, the kind of leadership that we need more of in principle. Because at the heart of this challenge, there is a risk, and it is a risk and a coordination problem. No one can do it alone, again, and I must insist on that. That's why I'm glad to see here organizations like Brentford FC and Suez with us, because just to give you an example, and I'm sure the speakers of both Suez and Brentford will shed the light on that. Stadium and large venues are undergoing pressure to decarbonize, but they cannot retrofit overnight, right? However, startups and SMEs can help them move faster, bring in targeted solutions, rethink operations in a more sustainable ways. And also at the same time, it's as powerful when large players like Suez step in, not just as end users, but also as enablers of top innovation coming into from the startup ecosystem. So the reality is, to tackle climate change, we must move faster. We must unlock innovation across all different sectors, from energy to water to food to transport and industry. And we must do it at scale. And that innovation, it's coming from startups, not from large organizations in general. And at CAP, we do stand firmly with these founders and startups and SMEs, because they're not just building companies, they're building climate solutions that our future depends on. But they need support. And this support, really, we need partners willing to share early risk, we need access to funding, and we need clearer pathways to market. And this is where we come in, and this is where West London Chamber comes in, and this is where larger organizations also like Brentford and like Suez and others come in. And that's why we're here today, I think, to talk about how we can do that all together through trust, collaboration, and really bold action. Thank you for that, and happy really to answer any question. And I'll pass it over to you, Sally.
Thank you very much, Mo. Yes, we'll do questions at the end, I'm thinking, but I like the point that we must move faster and at scale, and innovation comes from SMEs. I think that sort of says a great deal, because SMEs can turn on a sixpence, as I always say. You make a decision, it's the wrong decision, you make another decision, and hopefully that's the right one. Thank you so much. That's given me a lot of food for thought, I'm sure, for others. Right, next up we have James Beale from Brentford. James, over to you now. I think you were having problems with your slides, and I think Lisa's got them. Oh, Brill, no problems at all. Thank you.
All right. Let's see how we go with the slides. Thank you, Sally. So, morning, everyone. My name is James Beale. I'm the head of sustainability at Brentford Football Club. So I'll just talk you through the next 10 minutes or so some of, our where we are on sustainability, some of our key actions, and obviously happy to answer any questions at the end. So if we flick forward, I'll just start off with a bit of context. So a couple of years ago, the club developed a sustainability strategy and realized that actually this is a huge topic that comes across the whole club, and so realized they needed to employ an individual to own it, which was great for me because that gave me a job. So they employed a sustainability manager, and the strategy is a 3-year strategy across all of our sites, and there are 5 pillars. It's essentially a framework to help us think about this broad and complicated topic. And you'll notice it's 3 years, so we're just entering the final year. So the point that Sally, you just picked up on that Mo made about scaling up, I completely agree. It's we're just finishing or coming to the end of our first work on this and kind of establishing our foundation. And when we look forward, I'm quite excited to think about how we can scale up. But anyway, moving on to the next slide, please. These are our 5 pillars, how we think about sustainability. So governance is, who takes responsibility and how is that allocated across the club? And then we have our 3 doing pillars, our 3 places where we want to have an impact. So climate, obviously calculating and reducing our carbon emissions, circularity, seeing if we can reduce our waste, and then nature, it's the opposite. It's quite an exciting thing. How can we improve and make positive? And then the final overarching kind of umbrella pillar is engagement. How do we talk about it? And we recognize that we have a significant ability, we have an ability to have a significant impact on this engagement pillar. So next slide. So here's a list of some of the key actions that we've done. This is not quite everything, but here's some of the big stuff. I'm not going to talk you through all of these in the next 10 minutes, but the ones in bold, hopefully I'll talk through in a little bit of detail. So in terms of governance, we've got some data and KPIs now. We've got an advisory board that sits at our board level, and we've signed up to some frameworks, and we're developing a data dashboard. Within the climate pillar, we've worked out a net zero strategy, and hopefully we're about to announce some targets soon. We did some train discounts for our fans last season. I'll talk you through in a second our Bike to Brentford initiative. We're looking at some collective energy procurement, so purchasing energy across the Premier League. And we've also developed a policy for our first team travels, which is a topic that we always get questions on. In terms of circularity, obviously we want to improve recycling. We go through a lot of kit, so we want to reuse that as much as possible. And grass cuttings, we cut our grass at the training ground every day, and we go through tons and tons of grass cuttings. So we have found a sustainable solution for that. In the nature pillar, we've got a strategy. So we're not just taking random ad hoc actions, but kind of being strategic about it. We have a community garden outside the stadium. We've got an orchard in Brentford, and we've signed up to a UN framework. And then in terms of engagement, we've trained all of our staff. We've worked with our partners. The report I'll talk about in a little bit, but we published a report. We did our first one at the end of last year, and we intend to do that every year. We've got a working group with our fans, which is really, really great sounding board for the work we do. We participate in the Green Football Weekend, and also we do a survey of our fans on their views on sustainability every year, which we're really pleased with the results of that, and that really steers our actions. So that's a lot of the stuff that we do, and I'll dig into a few of them. So if we go on to the next slide. So we have a sustainability advisory board. So when I first joined, luckily, not luckily, but our board and our executive committee, so senior leadership in the club, are very enthusiastic on this topic and want us to take action and be seen as leaders or be leaders. But they recognize that they don't have the expertise. So I was tasked with setting up an advisory board that feeds into our our board on sustainability matters. So it was quite a fun piece of work to go and find some experts to help advise us. So we have top left, Lorraine Whitmarsh is a behavioural scientist. Marianne Matthews is Group Head of Responsible Business at Sky. Andrew Cox is Director of Climate and Strategic Programmes at London Borough of Hounslow. Professor Phil Stevenson he's got a complicated job title, but essentially he's their leading academic on bees and pollinators, which obviously is very relevant for us, but the leading academic on bees and pollinators at Kew Gardens, I must say. So they're obviously right next door to us and kind of world-renowned science-based institution, which is really helpful. And then Fran James is a fan. He's founder of the Sustainabees, our independent fan group on sustainability, but also he writes a football and climate change newsletter, which is very well regarded and very helpful for me and my peers. So we meet with them regularly. So if you flick onto the next slide, we meet with them regularly and we talk about sustainability actions that we're doing in the club, but they help us give us a long-term view and help advise our board, making sure that we're aware of all the topics that we should be. And we selected these people because they basically align with our pillars. So on the rows on the left there are our, well, 4 of our 5 pillars. Obviously, this fits within the governance pillar. And we wanted a mix of people, right? So from government, from local businesses, from academia, and we wanted our fans on there as well. So we feel we hit the right jigsaw with them. So that's a really useful way to guide us on our sustainability journey. You know, I have some answers, I have some experience in this, but not many other people in the club do. Well, they do since I've joined, but especially at senior level, they wanted some expert help. So now we've got that in place, which is great. Next slide, please. Bike to Brentford. Yeah, so we have a scheme to encourage fans to cycle to our matches. So if you go on to the next slide, so fan travel is a significant portion of our carbon emissions, and it's tough. We can't control it, but we can influence it. So if we look at fan travel, there's 4 ways we can segment that fan travel as international, UK, London, and what I call local, but West London. And we're looking at actions we can do in all of those, and there's varying degree of difficulty. But Bike to Brentford, you can see bottom right, most of our fans live in West London, so most of our fans are local, which is unique in the Premier League. So we want to do a scheme to encourage our local fans to take sustainable motor transport to our matches. So we came up with Bike to Brentford. So on the next slide. We did a trial at the end of last season to see how it'd go. We really didn't know anything. No one had done that before. You know, we have regular cyclists, but we didn't know how well it would be received. So we trialed 3 games at the end of last year in the summer. Obviously, the weather's nicer. Our objectives were to increase the number of cyclists, obviously no safety incidents, better understanding of fan cycling habits, and a long-term commitment from fans to cycle. We provided some incentives, so a voucher for a food and drink and various other bits and bobs. And we set up some temporary bike parks around the stadium, and also worked with our fans who organised their own cycle rides to the matches, and we supported with that. So on the next slide, I think I've got a slide saying where the bike parks are. So in the middle there, you can see our stadium. It's very urban. There's not a lot of space around it, but we found a couple of sites that were suitable for bike parks, and that's where we set up a couple of bike parks for the game. So next slide, please. And we can flick through these quite quickly, but there's just some photos of the event. So there's the bike parks. They can be installed and taken down on the day, which is great. And if you keep flicking through, luckily they didn't look like that the whole day. Some people did turn up, which was great. So we had lots of cyclists turn up on the day. You can see in the bottom in the middle there, we also provided free bike mechanics. So if anyone had any issues with their bikes or wanted something solved, they could do that. That was through London Borough of Hounslow, which is great. If you flick on, I think we've got another couple of slides of happy cyclists, which is great. Yeah, and then so communications, luckily I had backing internally from in the club, so we were quite loud about it. You know, we did some digital and physical communications on it, so posters, flyers, wayfinding signs, but then also we, you know, had it on our website. We got some coverage on BBC, which is great. We put it on our social channels. And in the top right there, you can see we surveyed our fans, and 91% of our fans were aware that that was happening. So the communications worked, which we're very happy with. If you flick onto the next slide, I think it's just a bit of a review of how we think it went. You can see the column in the middle there, it's mostly green ticks and a few amber maybes, which is fine. But basically, we tripled the number of cyclists. We suspect it might be the most number of cyclists at a Premier League game ever. Data's not great, but we're quite proud of that. And obviously quite a small stadium. We're the second smallest stadium in the Premier League. So we're happy with that, and there's enough green ticks there for us to continue the campaign and look to do it next season and hopefully beyond. So that's Bike to Brentford. If we flick onto the next slide, yes, sustainability report. So I was keen immediately to publish a report annually. It's a way to hold myself accountable, but it's a way, obviously, for fans and other stakeholders to hold us accountable. And I was going to talk through that in a little bit of detail, but don't have a lot of time. You can check it out on our website if you're very interested. But the important point on the sustainability report, if you go to the next slide, is that we have some KPIs. So when I joined, we didn't have a lot going on sustainability. We had some stuff, but also we didn't really have any measures of what our impact was and how we could be better. Now we do. So in our sustainability report across each of our pillars, we've got some numbers, we've got some data. And the big scary thing is now to improve those numbers. So as I say, with climate, it's to reduce them. With waste, it's to increase recycling, and well, the ideal is to reduce waste to zero. But nature is a difficult one. But anyone who works in development or in property will know that there's a mandated biodiversity score that should be measured with any developments. We have been developing our academy, which is our training ground. So we've done that for our training ground, but it made sense to do that for all of our other sites. So now we have a number that gives us a score on how many biodiversity units we have on our sites. Although it's not particularly intuitive, the point is we're going to try and improve that number year on year. That makes it easy for our fans and other stakeholders to understand. And then in terms of engagement, we survey our fans now every year on sustainability, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. So our survey, last year we asked 3 questions. How important do you think sustainability is? How aware are you of our efforts to act on it? And how effective do you think we are? And actually, we're very happy with our results. So in the 23-24 column there, our fans think it's important. That's brilliant. That means that if I'm ever challenged on it by CEO, board, or anyone else externally, I can demonstrate that our fans care. And if our fans care, that's a winning argument. But there's a bit of a gap you can see between awareness of what we're doing and how effective. It's still positive, but there's work to be done, which is good. And you can see we ran that survey again in this year or last season, 24-25, and all of them are nudged upwards, which is great. So there's still gaps, it's still not perfect, but it's moved in the right direction, which is great, which is really good for us. And then the bottom table there, we asked some additional questions. We want to dig into it a little bit deeper. So we asked, to what extent do you feel a sense of pride that your club is taking action to address the climate crisis? And we're blown away. 91% of fans are proud that we're doing something. So that's fantastic. That makes me so happy that our fans are really, really keen on this. How interested are you in learning how fans can reduce our footprint? Most fans are keen to know how they can help, which is superb. And how likely are you to get involved? Most people are likely to get involved. So basically, we've got a fan base who are really keen on this, really keen to be involved, really keen to help drive change, which just gives us an amazing platform to do exactly that. And I think that, oh no, I've got one more slide on what next. So there's loads of stuff we want to continue doing, but I think that the key point is we're coming to the end of this 3-year strategy and we're going to develop the next strategy. And I'm really keen that we basically scale up. We've set the foundations, we've got the data, we've got our KPIs, we've taken some actions and they've worked, which is brilliant, but we want to scale up and drive bigger, broader impact. So that's the plan. And I think that is time. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it. Happy to field any questions.
Thank you, James. It's interesting that, as you say, the results of your survey, that basically we are keen to drive change.
Yeah,
but we need to be shown how and how we feel we can make a difference. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. We will come back. I'm sure there'll be questions at the end. Right, next one, Richard Lear from Edwards Removals. Edwards Removals won our Best Business of the Year for Sustainability at our West London West London Chambers Business Awards. And just a quick plug, the awards are open again this year, and they are open, so anybody is free to enter from our 3 boroughs, Hammersmith and Fulham, Ealing and Hounslow. And if you're a chamber member, wherever you're based, you're able to enter. So plug over to you, Richard.
Thank you, Sally. 1 second, just share my slides. There we go. Can everyone see those? Yes, hopefully.
Yes, thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, so pleased to meet you, everyone, albeit virtually. So just to introduce myself, my name is Richard Lear. I am the London Group Manager for Edwards Removals across both of our London-based branches. I'm sat here in Northwest 10, Park Royal, and we also have a Southwest 19 Wimbledon depot as well. I'm also, for the same position, I'm also the London Group Manager for Clockwork Removals, who is our national and international brands and the owner of Edwards Removals. So yeah, we can cover removals internationally as well as nationwide, but we're not here for that right now. So I've been in the industry now for somewhat about 20 odd years. Just after I left university, I joined the industry as a porter and have worked my way up. So I've seen the use of packaging and also the carbon footprint that our industry does leave on our society. The industry could be said to be a bit archaic in the sense that they will say that they've done it a certain way and it's worked for so many years, so why change? But I don't see it that way. Unfortunately, in my upbringing, I've seen various ways that our species, mankind, has had an imprint on the world, and it's not a nice thing to see. Forgive me, I'm going to take you right back to my upbringing. So I'm a farmer's son, and the way that I've seen our footprint really impacting that industry is rubbish. So rubbish has found its way into gateways, into fields, into the food chain. So often my father was pulling out crisp packets out of the silage, out of animals' mouths as it was about to be consumed by them. Vets have been called as well for rubbish entering into their guts, which is not a nice image to see when an animal's being surgically opened to try and take that rubbish out. So that's thanks to us. It's leaving rubbish in gateways and fields. Later on in my university days, I was a rower. So often I was rowing down the tideway in Putney and up now past Chiswick and Fulham, rowing through flotillas of rubbish. So Coke cans, bottles. It was other things I've had are crisp packets. You name it, I've seen it. Unfortunately, I've seen the unsavoury things like tampons, condoms in the water. Our boats also hit things like sofas and armchairs in the water. So it's not a nice thing to see, and that's meant to be an area of, well, not want to say natural beauty, but it is a nice place to go, particularly on a day like today. It's lovely to be out in that river. But that's not right. Is rowing through things like that and seeing those things in our waterways, it's thanks to us and our carelessness and with how we deal with waste. So I brought my views on that into the way I work and how we deal with waste. I'm trying to innovate and drive forward how our industry does deal with waste and sustainability. I've mentioned those two things for a reason. I'll come back to it a bit later. But my opinion is we all have a responsibility for change, no matter how big or small it might be. It might be something very small and innate on a day-to-day basis, or it could be something quite large. I'm in the process of moving my house myself right now and coming across items of furniture that still have a purpose but won't fit into my new house. So we are repurposing them down the charity shop rather than putting them into landfill. So whatever way you can deal with something, there's always something better that we can do. So just moving swiftly on. So minimising environmental impact at Edwards. We are annually carbon assessed by a company called Carbon Footprints. There's two ways that our industry does impact on the planet, and that is, as you'd expect, is fuel usage or energy, and also our packaging. But we do still get carbon assessed on an annual basis just to see where we are and how we can improve. So it's always best to have an external view into your business to see, because you might be missing something, and to get their opinion on how to improve. There's always room for improvement. And we have found that our diesel usage on our vehicles, it does account for 72% of our emissions. So to try and counteract our carbon footprint, straight away, we put something in place. Every move that we do, we plant a tree. We don't do it ourselves. We get someone else to do it for us, but a sapling is planted and it's nurtured for them for 5 years. Try and offset some of the carbon that we are emitting through our fuel usage. We recycle and we donate. So often our clients are saying to us, like I've just said, I've got furniture I don't need. Can you help to repurpose this? Certainly, yes. So straight away, if we don't have anyone who can take it off our hands, we go to our employees. Often they say, I've got a purpose for that. I've got a family member who needs that sofa, that armchair, and it goes to a new home. Equally, if it's a large office move that has an untold amount of desks that need to be taken care of. We try and repurpose those where we can. Like I say, we do partner with charities to try and recycle unwanted furniture. And we do try and strengthen our community ties through sustainability programs. So our neighbours here in Northwest 10, it's the, I forget the name of the business, forgive me, but they have taken some furniture off our hands in the past, and also pallets as well. So we do have pallets or palletized items brought into our warehouse. And in the past, they've taken those pallets off us and they've repurposed them. And actually, if you are in the local parkable area, if you walk around, you will see these new planters. And the guys next door have broken down the pallets, built up a planter, and they've actually tried to make what would seem to be quite a concrete jungle around here. It's been a bit more green with nice flowering plants and things. And the way as a business we keep up to date with our impacts is we don't have any fancy software. We are just, I'm afraid to say, a removals company. So we do heavily rely upon spreadsheets as well as external portals such as our fuel usage. We have a platform where we can see our carbon emissions that way. But we do, on a monthly basis, have a chat about where we're at, how much fuel have we used, how much AdBlue have we used, have we done many box collections to try and repurpose materials that a customer may have used. So that is discussed on a monthly basis, and we always look to try and see how we can improve on those numbers. So reducing emissions in a carbon-intensive industry. Like I've said, the fuel usage in our business is the biggest carbon emitting, or biggest footprint we have in our business. So we're always looking to see if we can replace our vehicles. Unfortunately, with removals, because of the low mileage we do, our vehicles are with us for some time. So we have to future-proof them looking ahead. We currently have Euro 6. We have just been told that Euro 7 is coming. So that's the next standard of vehicle engines or truck engines that are coming. And DAF, one of the main producers of commercial vehicles, have said that'll be with us 2028, 2029. So that's taking things a step further to try and better or future-proof our emissions. We are also trialling electric HGVs. Unfortunately, what is prohibiting the use of electric HGVs is the infrastructure. So if you're having an HGV that would base itself in and around London, that works because you can come back to base and recharge it. Unfortunately, there's not an infrastructure in the UK that will allow HGVs to be able to charge themselves. I was talking to a competitor maybe a year or so ago, and he was looking to buy an electric HGV, but he stopped because there's only one single commercial HGV charging point in the whole country, which is crazy. So the adoption of HVO fuel. So the HVO fuel is like a hydrogenated vegetable oil. It helps to reduce the CO2 impact or the emissions, and that's something we have brought in. So introduction of electric vans for city-based operations, again, done that as well. So it's unlike the HGVs, the vans are easier to implement that sort of that stance. And also because of our parent brand, Clockwork Removals, we do have branches based around the UK. We always are looking at reducing our empty running of our vehicles. For example, with removals, you're often sending a vehicle to destination and it's coming back empty, not with us. So we're talking to our colleagues around the UK to see, right, okay, we've got a van going up to Scotland, for example. Have you got anything to come back? Yes, no. If the answer is no, we are also members of other associations. And there's WhatsApp groups, so we talk to each other. Even though they are our competitors, we are then talking, right, okay, have you got anything to come back down south? Yes, fantastic. And so we are utilising that empty space. And it does seem to work very well. Something as basic as WhatsApp. So sustainable packaging. Like I say, so fuel is one, and also our packaging is the next biggest carbon or footprint we do have. So we have now changed from a plastic-based product to the use of a more eco-friendly material, such as this is our export wrap. What is on the market is a product called Speed Wrap. This product, whether it's plastic or paper-based, is used for us to protect the more fragile item. If you're shipping internationally, everything has to be seam wrapped for customs purposes. So we do use an awful lot of this product. And before we change to this product in the picture, which is a 5-ply paper blanket, we were using roll upon roll of this plastic virgin material export wrap. It was disgusting to see. It was a one-use application, and it was being taken off the other end, or stuff being brought to us, or taking it off, and you had van loads of this stuff. It was going straight to the tip, and it was disgusting to see. But now we've transferred to a sustainably sourced, biodegradable material that we can use instead. We try and reuse packaging wherever we can. Like I said at the start, is that we do box collections around around London mostly. If the job's gone again further afield and it's near one of our other branches in the Clockwork brand, we contact them. Right, can you please go and collect the boxes from that client? We do decide whether the benefit of collecting those materials is greater than the imprint that will cause through the burning of the fuel. Otherwise, we try and reuse boxes as and where we can. And by what our plan is to do, and what we have done, is to reduce our plastic consumption to less than 1% of our usage. And we've done that by changing our products to the paper blankets. We do still, I'll hold my hand up and say we do still use plastic bags for our mattresses and our sofas for domestic base moving, so A to B, UK wide. We've not found a product that would be able to replace that. So unfortunately, just yet. We have purchased a baler to help streamline our warehouse and recycling. So in this baler, this is a mill-sized bale that will be churned out. They're between 400 to 500 kilos a go. So they are quite large. There's two of them in the yard that I took yesterday. And these are collected, taken away and recycled, and then the materials is put back into the chain rather than it's just put into landfill and then never to be seen again. So year to date, we've produced 79 cardboard bales and they've been recycled. So each bale is said to be saving about 17 trees to be cut down and used as virgin material. So it's certainly that's quite a big footprint, and it just gives you an idea of how big our operation is. The last thing that we do use multi-use crates. And yes, these are plastic. However, they are reused over multiple times, and you likely would have seen them for mostly commercial moves. However, these can be used for domestic base moving as well. They stack inside one another, and it's a great way of being able to not have a carbon footprint. Yes, it's plastic-based products, but it's reused over and over and over again. So leading by example in sustainability. This is quite key to us. So like I said at the start, our industry is very much, we've done it that way for many years. Why change now? That doesn't work for me. So the introduction of various ways that we've done has been taken on by other companies, because we do offer a trade storage facility here in our Northwest 10 office, where other companies can come in and use our storage facilities. So Edwards Removals does have an international standard of the 14001, which is the environmental accreditation, showcasing our commitment and dedication to environmental sustainability and responsibility. We do also have quality as well as health and safety, amongst other accreditations and certifications as well. We do communicate our CSR through this document just here. As eagle-eyed ones amongst you will see it's the Clockwork branded one. Our Edwards one is just going through a slight makeover, but it's much the same wording. And this outlines to our clients where we're looking to prioritise our sustainability. So the introduction of the baler has reduced our carbon footprint by 14%, which for me, it's a huge figure. Anything you can do, even by a percent, you should maintain and continue. But 14% for us was a big, big figure. So we've encouraged others and those around us to follow our sustainable approach. The baler, for example, our trade clients have now started to use that. And within the first day or two of its introduction, they're filling it with their own cardboard rather than taking it to the local landfill site, which is great to see. We've been overcoming challenges. The cost of a HGV electric vehicle is staggering. It's 3 times as much as a traditional fossil fueled vehicle. Unfortunately, DAF has said that the way of a hydrogen fueled vehicle is not the way to go, simply because the amount of energy you've got to put into removing the hydrogen from the air, it greatly outweighs the benefit of that. So therefore, they are putting most of their resources down the electric route. They're still improving that, and it's running alongside the the Euro 7 introduction as well in 2 or 3 years' time. They foresee that HGVs of the future won't solely be either fossil fueled or electric. It'll be hybrid sorts of model, and that's the way they're looking to go. So our achievements to date, across the whole board, we have reduced our emissions by 20%, which is a massive figure. So that's the HVO, the introduction of the materials, the sustainable materials, which is a great figure. We're always trying to look for ways to try and improve that, and we will continue to do so. And promoting industry change through knowledge and sharing an award. So we have been, as Sally was rightly said, we were very proud winners of the Best Green Business for the Chamber last year. One way just to showcase we are going the right way, and our colleagues were very proud of that awards. We have just been recently awarded the runners-up, just pipped at the post by our national association, the BAR, for Domestic Move of the Year. Again, very proud of that. And obviously, we are also a winner of the West London Business. So it just showcases that our business, albeit small, we feel we're doing the right things, but we'll continue to try and strive to make innovation or do innovation where we can. Net zero by 2030. That year is drawing close. And whilst I do foresee us still burning diesel by that year, it's going to be offset. So we have been looking at carbon capture schemes, and we do currently do that now, but not sufficiently enough to completely offset our emissions. But that is where the business is working towards. And zero to landfill. So I mentioned earlier that we do, when it comes to office clearances and such like, we try and base things on or recycle, repurpose. Although we have to be careful of the POPs regulations, which is a legal constraint on the repurposing of domestic seating as well as office-based seating. We do try and not send anything to landfill. So if it's an office desk and it can't find a new home, we strip it. Metal goes to metal recycling. Wood goes to being chipped so it can be put back into the circular economy. That's where we try and go to and try and send as little to landfill as possible. Unfortunately, at times that is unavoidable. So questions are to follow after the next speaker. However, I just want to leave you with one thing. Just to draw you back to my introduction is, as an individual, do you feel you're doing enough? Or could you do more? Do you make every effort to recycle? Or is it that it's rubbish is sufficiently taken care of when you're walking down the street? Do you just rest rubbish on top of piles of rubbish as you walk down? Often you see more so later on in the afternoon and the evening, piles of rubbish that have been brought out by shops. Are you one of those people who just rest your rubbish on top of those bags, expecting someone else to take care of it? Or you actually then taking that bottle home with you and say, right, I'm going to recycle that. So I can tell you now, I've also done night work. I've seen how those bags of rubbish are dealt with, and the refuge collectors don't care for bottles, whatever it might be, other rubbish, drinks containers placed on top of that. They leave it on the floor. If it's a windy day, it then gets blown away down the street. Yes, if it's central London, it won't be in a field, but it will go into the river. So that's me having to row through that when it's rubbish. So do you do enough, or could you take that rubbish home with you and just do that? So the small of changes can make a big difference. Maybe not to you, but to someone else who is having to pick up that rubbish after you. So don't leave it to the next person to take care of action. Do the action yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Richard. Again, food for thought. Interesting that you're a farmer's son. I shall, next time I meet you, I want to have more talk about that, because that was on the radio again this morning. Our last speakers are from Suez, so from small to large, which is going to be very interesting. We have got a double act, James Baverstock and George Pearce. Who is going to be speaking and making the presentation? I think it's George.
Yeah, I'll kick off certainly and make introductions to James.
Brilliant.
So I'm just going to share my screen. And hopefully everyone can see the first slide. Yeah. So yeah, just to introduce myself, I'm George Pearce. I am head of sales for the Southeast at Suez, UK. and I'm joined by my colleague James Baverstock, who is one of our BDMs, and he is based in West London. So the kind of brief agenda for today is a little introduction about Suez, just to give you a kind of an understanding of the size and scale of the business, and the complexity that that brings with us managing our own kind of sustainability agenda, and then kind of moving through to how we implement sustainability practices across the business into how we support our customers to be more sustainable. And if I haven't spoken for too long, or James haven't spoken for too long, and we've got time, we will then just do a kind of brief update on a piece of legislation which is driving some of that sustainability change, which is the simpler recycling legislation. So just a very kind of brief overview in terms of, size and scale of the business. We are part of Suez Group, so a global business. And in the UK, 2023 revenue was 1.1 billion. We've got 340 operational sites, and we are also making some acquisitions, which is, considerably growing those numbers. But in terms of scale of waste management, you can see that we manage 12 million tonnes of waste a year, and we manage both contracts for local authorities, including the West London Waste Authority, and for commercial businesses as well. So that, in terms of the operational scale for Suez, 112 household recycling centres, 5 of those we've got for West London Waste Authority, 30 reuse shops, 14 MRFs. We've got the largest infrastructure of waste transfer stations in the southeast of any recycling business, and that includes our operation at Hayes, which is one of our major depots, which covers our West London customers. And I'll talk a little bit more about the kind of the operational piece and what we're doing as a business that impacts West London specifically, as well as the kind of UK view of what we're doing. So predominantly it's kind of waste treatment, recycling, and also energy from waste. And again, I'll touch further on those points through the slides. So what we kind of wanted to focus on, although I'm head of sales, James is a BDM, this isn't a sales opportunity as we see it. It's to kind of really focus on how we at Suez are focusing our own sustainability efforts. As a UK recycling business, we're kind of at the forefront of environmental projects. We need to be, as a business, be optimizing as much as possible our own sustainability performance and lead the way if we're going to be seen as kind of thought leaders and practical leaders in this space for our customers. So I think a number of in terms of the approach, the speakers across today's panels, will be kind of reinforcing a lot of messages that those speakers have made today. And it's interesting that the kind of pathways are similar, even if you're an SME or a large scale business such as ourselves. But as I mentioned, at the kind of forefront of our business is recycling, and is kind of environmental services. So leading by example is what we've been very keen to do, and I'll kind of walk through the strategic approach that the business has undertaken to clearly demonstrate our leadership. Mainly, especially for a business our size, with size and scale over 6,500 employees, it's kind of really important that we engage them and create that network of engagement through sustainability champions, and focus the sustainability not just on the waste and recycling, which is our core business, but wider than that, kind of look at our overall carbon impact, look at the impact we have not only on our own business and our customers, but our local operations, and how can we improve those and look at developing sustainability across all of those pieces. And we've kind of really focused as well on, outside of waste, biodiversity. What can our local depots, what kind of practices can they bring in to improve biodiversity on their sites? And taking a lead on education. kind of sharing the benefits of our successes, sharing the key case studies that we've driven through our engagement projects with our customers. So again, I'll kind of talk through that part of the thought process in our approach to sustainability. So leading by example, we demonstrate that by being we've been evaluated by EcoVadis, and I'm pleased to say, though we're in the top 5%, we've now moved to the top 1% in terms of waste management businesses. So we're really kind of proud of the work that we've done, and for that to be recognised by our EcoVadis medal and our A rating from CPD as well. So in terms of the two categories stated there for climate strategy and actions, Suez is not just a waste management business, it's a water business as well. So preserving resources is what we've also been recognised for. So how do we achieve that? As I mentioned, it's not just looking at waste and recycling, it's looking at the entire carbon challenge. So we've kind of really bought in by 2030, looking at reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, net zero by 2050, but really our focus is to be carbon positive. So we're looking at kind of wider operations. We're looking at carbon capture. We're looking at all sorts of initiatives to kind of really drive that through in our plan. So developing that strategic plan was really important, and we've used the EN kind of targets, the UN Sustainable Development Goals to kind of drive that strategy, and kind of focus our efforts in the areas where we believe we'll get the best gains. Practical implementation across the business our size. So we focus a lot in terms of projects, embedding those sustainability champions and really engaging everyone from all areas of the business into a kind of company-wide effort, and then using new digital tools to kind of track, measure and record our activity. And one of the speakers mentioned it earlier, I think it was Richard. Both Richard and James have mentioned the kind of outputs into a sustainability report, and that's really important. So tracking and measuring what our successes are and reporting that back to our customers and our wider stakeholders, the performance that we're having is incredibly important, and we support that with our annual sustainability report. So we've developed with a software developer, we've developed an in-house app, and we've got a People and Planet app that records all of the sustainable efforts that we're doing across the business, and that's what drives our kind of key metrics and our key outputs for that report, as well as our own internal carbon measurement and carbon reporting. So in terms of the results, I'm not going to go through it, but we can share again, as the other speakers have mentioned, our full sustainability report. But we've had some real kind of key wins in terms of reduction of carbon emissions. We've implemented electrification at our southeast waste transfer stations, including our Hayes transfer station. So we've replaced all of that kind of diesel plant, things like rollers, excavators, diggers, all of that kind of plant that was diesel, we've converted to electric. We've put over a £1.1 million investment into electrification of our sites and developing the electric infrastructure to support that move to electric. We're also running an electric collection vehicle in our southeast London location, and there's a real keen desire to kind of prove the concept on electric mobile compaction vehicles, and then roll those out as a kind of wider fleet through the business as well. When we're working with West London Waste Authority, we're completely zero to landfill, and we're taking every kind of element of waste that can't be recycled. We're now taking through our 2 sites in West London. So we've got Transport Avenue in Brentford and Victoria Road in Ruislip, And both of those are rail hubs for West London Waste Authority to rail waste that can't be recycled into our state-of-the-art energy from waste facility in Bristol. So that's a carbon neutral proposition that we put in there for the West London Waste Authority. So that's kind of all culminated into, kind of meeting the sustainable development goals that we're putting towards. Some key outputs that you can see on the screen. Again, I won't go through all of these, but it's kind of a culmination of not only our operations and what we're doing for our customers, but how we're driving that internally as a business through each one of our sites. Every one of our staff and colleagues and employees have a target to implement, one social value day dedicated to social value, and key targets around sustainability for their own location and their own personal impact on the business, and they can log that through the app, and that supports the outputs that you can see on the screen. So we're particularly proud of the performance, and we're just putting together the final details for our 2024 report as well. So I'm going to hand over to James. Before I introduce James, we kind of want to focus on how Suez can help businesses be more sustainable. And it was interesting listening to the speakers and kind of hearing about some of the initiatives, particularly around innovation and working with SMEs. So we are currently working with an SME on a digital app which uses AI technologies to support people identifying which recycling item to put into which bin. And we're developing that for Stadia at the moment. And I've actually got a meeting at our head office today with the SME that we're supporting to develop that app. So kind of getting fans and the public more engaged and a better understanding of what they need to do with their waste to not only kind of improve the operations of Stadia and what they can do, but making sure that the fans can get involved and that they can, improve their recycling segregation, as well as working with the same business on a digital back of house app, which allows companies to kind of audit their internal bins and their back of house processes to refine those, improve recycling, improve segregation, and reduce contamination. So there's a huge amount that we're doing on a kind of innovation and especially from a digital perspective on supporting our client base. James, over to you.
Yeah, so as George said, just switching gears slightly and moving it towards how Suez can help its clients. So it's about partnering with the right waste company, because everyone who's joined this webinar, if they're part of any type of business, you will produce waste in some type of volumes, and it's about, are you partnering with a waste company that can help you be as sustainable as possible, and some things that we help our clients with that you may find useful. Richard from Edwards Removals rightly did mention about the one of the biggest challenges for a business like ours. Edward Removals and Suez both have a fleet of vehicles out doing collections, and it's about reducing carbon from that fleet. So what we do here is reduce carbon emissions through split stream trucks. So we split body trucks for food and glass. What that allows us to do is keep the waste streams separate and have the data on those completely separate, but it reduces the amount of trips needed on the road, obviously, in half, because we're doing them both at the same time. So George did mention about the electrified fleet. So we're moving towards that. Turning our fleet electric is something that is already in place. So we have fully electric trucks on the roads in London. The other thing about our fleet, which is slightly different and unique, is our weighing technology. So the trucks that come around to pick up rubbish in London is slightly different, because they can weigh each individual bin on arm, so they're RFID chipped. And what that allows us to do is weigh each individual bin and give the weight data for that bin back to the customer through the portal. What that will allow the customer to do is get a true understanding and reflection of the recycling rates that they have in place, and understand if the business is a larger business and has multiple areas that produce different types of waste, get live feedback about which areas are producing what waste and which areas are recycling better. And that definitely is important for Stadia as well, which is linked to what George and the previous speaker were saying. In terms of our supply chain and reuse networks, we make efforts to allow our clients to benefit from reuse networks and circular economy. So we try to find closed loop circular solutions. So for instance, we've partnered with Kimberly-Clark and with Talk Towels, who are manufacturers and producers and suppliers of bathroom and kitchen towels. And the partnership with them allows us to help our clients segregate the towels specifically, and then that waste stream directly goes back into recycling and production of the new towels that then go back into the business. So it's a lovely sort of circular solution there. And lastly, the Loop tool on the bottom bullet point. Loop is a social value calculation tool. So Suez has worked with Loop to create a bespoke metrics to capture the value and social value, including sustainability measures that we've taken, but more importantly for you, that our clients have taken as well. So it allows us to give you the ability to put a monetary value against the social value efforts that you're making. So, for instance, it was on one of the slides that George presented earlier, but Suez created 2.7 billion in social value. And when working with Suez, we try to give our clients the opportunity and the access to that Loop social value tool, so then you can use that for your own reporting. So next slide, George. Case study here that is relevant to London and West London. Obviously, Young's is a pub a pub chain that we're all familiar with. Over 220 pubs in London and the southeast. When we partnered with them, they actually had a really decent recycling program, as you would imagine, an established company of their size. But they didn't rest on their laurels and recognized that there's always room for improvement. We teamed up to make the pubs greener. Across the 220 sites, there was a 5% increase in all Young's pubs. Some of them were already top performers, so there was marginal gains in terms of your 2s and 3%, but some pubs massively benefited. So up to and above 10% increase in recycling rate. George, next slide. Yeah, so you can see here a quote from Amy McDonald, the sustainability manager at Young's Pub, which is a lovely thing for us to be able to report back to you. That she said the partnership with Suez goes beyond waste collection and recycling. They helped us creatively engage our teams and boost recycling and organise local events with our pubs to keep communities clean. So when we work at any time with multi-site, we like to engage each individual site and create that sort of competitive buzz. So we will create recycling league tables so you can see where you sit within different sites. Next slide, George. And lastly here, I wanted to go over a case study of someone that perhaps wasn't as far ahead, as a starting point. Some businesses aren't in the position that Young's were when we engaged with them. They may have really struggled, and London Luton here was an example where their recycling rates were below 50%, and we managed to get them above 80% by 2023. So although they're you might think it's quite a unique business because it's an airport, the majority of the waste comes from the shopping centre element of the airport. So there was 40 units, 19 retail shops, and 23 restaurants, and then a few other travel-related units. But essentially, we've all been to airports, and the sheer volume of waste. People are in a rush. People are not segregating waste properly, and we came in and developed solutions with them to increase that recycling rate. It was an overwhelming success and produced a award-winning partnership that earned London Luton Airport a prestigious Green World Environment Award. Again, massively focused on segregation and also engaging the concessionaires. And again, that piece on recycling league tables and reporting was utilised massively in this example. George?
Sorry, James, I'm aware of time. Have you got many more? Because we've gone beyond.
That's it. So if we're up for time, then we can skip the last part, and you know, we can obviously support in the future with updating members with recent updates to legislation on waste and recycling.
Yeah, I do think we need another webinar on this topic, and we will be doing one. I just want to thank all our speakers. I know that a lot have had to jump off because they have meetings at 11. I don't think Alan is here. He usually has lots of questions. My question was very quickly. Is Richard here? Yes. Very quickly, Richard. You talked about the legislation that you had to have. What was it called? The carbon footprint thing. Is that compulsory, or do you choose to do that?
So which legislation is that? Is that
hold on. What was it? Let me have a look. You use it to assess what you're doing. Your carbon footprint assessment. Is that compulsory, or you just choose to do that?
We choose to do it as a business. We did it the first time, I think, 3 years ago, and whilst we knew we thought we knew what the answer would be down to fuel usage and also materials. Thereafter, we did change our energy provider in our buildings here in London to ensure that the energy being provided here was sustainably sourced. Fuel out in the vehicles, the guys from Suez will be able to say it's a lot harder to be able to reduce that because you need it. You have to emit it. It's just trying to find ways to reduce it as best you can or offset it.
Thank you so much. And I think there was one question that one of our attendees, David Ellis, put to us. But I think George from Suez covered it a bit. How is AI affecting sustainability? George, I think you covered that a little, didn't you, with your...
Yeah, so, I mean, as an industry, it's very archaic. So we're kind of still at the testing phase of AI, but AI is being heavily introduced, not only from the customer perspective, where I've spoken about kind of using AI to identify waste streams and, you know, help educate, you know, employees and staff and stakeholders and the general public. But AI has been linked in more effectively in the industry at the waste processing element. So at key waste processing sites, AI is used to differentiate different waste streams. Plastics, for example, AI is used to identify the different grades of plastic so they can automatically move different waste streams onto different conveyor belts without the need for kind of human interaction. AI is also being used to kind of map key areas of waste buildup across the UK and identify where fly tipping happens. So I think it was Richard mentioned that he's a farmer. You know, fly tipping on farmland is a real problem, and so AI is being used to kind of identify key hotspots and, you know, kind of help multiple stakeholders and engagers identify how we can treat that. So it's developing. There's still a long way to go as we get used to the infancy of AI. But yeah, it's having a big impact on the way that you know, sustainability is viewed and how we can react going forward.
Thank you so much. I think we will wind it up there, but I just wanted to say, somebody put in the chat box that if you have surplus office furniture, that you can recycle it via a company called Rype, RYPE, and the website is www.rypeoffice.com. They'll possibly take it off your hands. And then a quick comment. I live in a house which luckily has a driveway, and it used to be, we were very close to Griffin Park, the old Brentford football club. And way back in the 30s and 40s, the previous occupant of the house, Mr. Hancock, who ran a logistics company in Feltham, he rented out his driveway for a mass of bicycles, I think at a sort of a penny a time. So yeah, what comes around sort of goes around type thing. And I was quite surprised that people found that parking their bike at Chiswick Roundabout, they found that walk to the stadium was quite far. it sort of beggars belief a little bit, because it's probably a 5-7 minute walk, if that. But there you go. Those are our thoughts. The webinar will be on our YouTube channel as soon as possible, once Lisa sort of does it this afternoon. I want to thank our speakers for their time. We will be doing another one. We will be getting Suez back to talk more. I think, yes, we could all learn from each other, and I think we need to be doing more. So thank you very much for your time this morning to all our speakers. Hope you all have a good day. Thank you very much indeed.